So the next thing that I'd like to do, I'd like to move between folders. I would like to just be able to navigate around, move around. And so Windows box, if I want to navigate around, there's a couple of ways I can do it. I can just click on a file. I can click on a folder and a subfolder. I can click the back arrow to move backwards, and I can click into another one. Another way is to use this hierarchy, this tree. If you'll notice on the side, there's a navigation pane on the side. If I expand it, that I can click the plus arrow by local drive, and it will expand the branches under the tree. So then I can click into program files. I can click into JGrasp and then the bin file. And this is one of the ways that I can navigate. So if I press the minus, it collapses the tree. I can collapse the tree, come up here and collapse the tree. I can also use the back arrow or the forward arrow to move back and forth. So I'm going to go back into my documents. This is where I was creating things in here. In DOS, if I want to navigate around, well, in Windows, if I'm navigating around, it's important that I know where I'm at, right? And so how do I know where I'm at? One of the ways is by using this tree on the left-hand navigation pane. It should be able to tell me where I'm at any given moment in time. Oh, it doesn't want to let me in there. Another way that I can tell where I'm at is this bar across the top, library/documents. That is where I'm currently sitting. If I go into download, look, I'm in Allison. Let me come out of it. If I go back to downloads, the bar says Allison Sunderland downloads, but if I click into the bar, it actually gives me a real live path of where I'm at. And I can see that I'm on C drive and users and Allison Sunderland and then downloads. So I can see the actual path of where I'm at. In a command line interface, it is critically important that you know where you are at any given point in time, because there is no visual reference. I can't just look at some tree hierarchy on some navigation pane to see where I'm at. I need to know where I'm at, because if I'm creating files and folders and I don't have any idea where I am and where I'm created them, I could get easily. And so you're going to notice that the DOS prompt itself, where the cursor is blinking, this is the path that tells me where I'm at. And so if I look at my DOS prompt right now, I can see that I am on my C drive in a subdirectory called users and then a subdirectory called Allison. And so I can tell where I'm at. So if I want to navigate around, moving between folders, what I can do is in DOS, I type in CD. That stands for change directory. So let's say that I wanted to go into one of my cool and amazing new folders like my DOS folder. Now I told you that DOS is not case sensitive, and so even though the capital DOS folder is the name of the file, even if I type it in lowercase DOS folder, it's still going to go in there. And notice how my cursor changed, because my cursor is now telling me that I'm sitting in my DOS folder. If I do a dir, there shouldn't be anything in there, because I haven't put anything in that folder. But look at my cursor. It says users A Sunderland DOS folder. So I'm on my C drive, and I am in users A Sunderland DOS folder. If I want to back out, I can type in cd ... This will back me out one folder. And now notice the change in my directory. If I want to back out again, cd ... it should move me out of A Sunderland, and now I'm sitting in A users. If I type in a dir, I can see the names of the users on this particular machine. If I type in cd ... now I'm just sitting in the root directory of C drive. I can type a dir, and I have to spell it right, and it will show me everything that is in here. Notice there is a folder called users. So if I typed in cd space, got to spell it right, cd space users, my cursor changes to tell me that now I'm in users. I type in a dir, I can see everything that's in here, and one of them should be A Sunderland. So I can type in cd space A Sunderland. I can type in dir to see everything that's in there. All the folders, the subfolders I should say, and the one file. I have one little file in here. So this is a way that I can move around. I can also type cd space and an entire path name. If I don't want to have to back up and back up and back up and back up, I can just type in cd space C:/users and then press enter, and it would take me to whatever path that I typed in. So let's move around in Linux. Let's see if we can move around in Linux. Linux is the same. I'm going to type in, let's see where I'm at right now. I have got a lot of stuff in here. So let's say that I wanted to move into one of the new folders that I created. I'm going to type in CD, stands for change directory, and then I'm going to give it the name. But Linux is case sensitive. So when I say my Linux, what do I have? I created some directories, right? Linux folder. When I say Linux folder, I have to be camel case, or letter for letter, word for word, case for case. And then I want you to notice what happens to my cursor. It tells me that I'm now in Linux folder. If I do a dir, there is nothing in here because I have never placed anything in here. If I want to back up, I'm going to type cd space ... So this time I'm going to put a space between the cd and the ... Same command, slightly different formatting. Now we learned dir will show me the contents of the folder that I am currently sitting in. There is another command, which is, in Linux, which is ls. That's short for list. List everything in this directory. ls, list. Well, it should do exactly the same thing that dir does. But this command has a switch, an optional switch. And if I type in ls dash or space dash la, which means list all, it is going to give me greater detail and information about each and every single one of the elements that are in the directory that I'm currently sitting in. This is valuable information because when I did it in DOS, DOS told me, indicated who was a directory and who was not. If it's not a directory, it indicated the file size of each one of them. If I use the LA or list all switch in Linux, it's going to tell me some pertinent information about this one as well. Such as, I want you to notice that these flags here on the side. This is telling me read, write, delete, and execute security access. It's going to tell me whether or not it is a directory. If you'll notice, some of the first columns have a D, some of them do not. Because some of them are directories, I can see who it belongs to, I can see the file name, I can actually see the file size and when it was created. Oh look, some of them go all the way back to 2013. 2012, I see 2012 when it was created. Alright, so another thing that we should be able to do is we should be able to rename stuff. So let me come into here in my documents. Let's see if I can rename stuff. How about if I rename this file? There's a couple of ways that I can do that. I can come in here under the file and I can right click on it and say that I want to rename it. And I'm going to call this your doc. And I'm going to change the name of my spreadsheet. When I press it again, it is going to highlight the name. And I'm going to call this your spreadsheet. So a couple of different ways that I can change the names. If I want to change the names in files of DOS, I'm going to use the command rename, rename. Well, I only currently have one file in there. It's called my notepadfile.txt. So the very first thing after the rename command is the name of the file I want to change, and then the next thing is what I want to rename it to. So I'm going to call it my notepadfile.txt, and then the next space, what do I want to call it? How about your file.txt? I press enter, I have no idea if it works. So I'm going to have to do a directory to see if it actually changed the name, and there it is. Now I see the 19 down there at the bottom of my list. So I can say rename space your file.txt. Let's call it his file.txt. That seems to be an appropriate name. When I press enter, it doesn't tell me if it worked or not. The only way I can find out whether or not it worked is by doing a dir, listing the contents of the directory. There it is, smack in the middle of the pile. I see the 19, his file.txt. So let's see if we can do that in Linux. If I do a dir, it shows me all of the files. You should have a couple of files in there. I'm pretty sure that we use nano at least once to create some new files. So the command actually is mv, move. We don't actually rename files, we move them to a new file name. So the command is mv for move. We're going to move it from an old file name to a new file name. So let's find something that we would like to find. How about there's my Linux file. Remember, Linux is case sensitive. So I'm going to say move and give it the file name and then what I want to call it. I'll call it your Linux file. Did I spell it wrong? L-I-N, my Linux. Yep. It couldn't find the one that I was looking for because the my lowercase. And the file in the directory is capital my, capital M. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the up move me to a series of previous commands. I can do up arrow and down arrow to move through previous commands. So I'm just going to up arrow back to the one that said my Linux file. I'm going to move over and I'm going to change that lowercase m to an uppercase m, and let's see if it can find it now. That's because I don't want to have to type commands over and over and over again. So the up and down arrows allow me to move through previous commands. It's let's see if it did it. Once again, it's not telling me whether or not it worked. I'm going to have to do a dir and see if my Linux file has now become your Linux file. Alphabetically, there it is. I should see it at the very end. Alphabetically, it should be at the end. Let's name another one. Let's rename another one. So we're going to move. I see that I have something called file name. Put them all in lowercase. I have no idea if it worked or not. And so now I can see two new files. It changes the name of the file. It moves it. There's your file name, the second one that I just did. Here's your Linux file, the first one that I did.